Hey everybody, this is Ro with Ro's Wigglers. I am following up and wanted to show you a little bit of my process as I get ready for this upcoming vending event. So I'm doing some sifting here. I talked in one of my previous videos about the size of my screen and how the 1/8 size screen that I use with my TurboSift, which is this here. This is a great size for sifting and it gets fine material, but it still allows a lot of the cocoons to fall through the holes, and then I would have to go through after each step of sifting and find the cocoons with my little spoon and scoop them up. And I found that to be very time consuming, and also that I would still probably be missing a good amount of cocoons that I couldn't just see with my eyes. So what I did was I purchased a sifter that is a 1/12 size. Now this is smaller. This is only 10 inches wide, so it's not nearly as efficient as the other one, which is about 12 inches, and I can't use my TurboSift for it, but it's a little experiment to use for now until hopefully in the near future TurboSift comes up with a 1/12, at which case I will 100% be buying that screen from them. So I wanted to kind of show you what I've got going on here with my setup. And basically what we have is our worm castings here that have been sifted with 1/8. Now these on their own are gorgeous and ready for the garden. They're nice and fine, but they are still full of all of the worm cocoons that fell through the 1/8 screen. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to sift this with my 1/12 sifter and get an even finer product. This is just absolutely gorgeous. I mean, people are going to love this. The garden's going to love this. It's very, very fine, and it's a really good material. And what I am finding is that this is catching the cocoons, and I can visibly see in the screen a lot of cocoons that this is catching. So let me show you the process here. And this bin, which you can't really see in the camera, is just where I am dumping the bigger pieces plus the cocoons, which will then make their way into my grow out bin to hatch and become worms that end up eventually either in my ready to go worm bins that I sell or for sale as worms themselves, or in my breeder bin so that I can get more cocoons and more worm castings. So here's my process. I just got a little cup here that I got somewhere, and I'm not putting too much in this sifter at one time because this has tiny holes, and it works better if you don't add too much at one time. But I'm going to dump this in my sifter and sift. I will say I am spoiled now by the TurboSift, so since I've been doing this, I'm a little like, back to the olden days when I used to do this all the time with all of my sifters, which is pretty funny to me. But anyway, so I'm sifting until I feel like a good amount of all the smaller stuff has fallen through the holes, and then what's left here is just this slightly bigger material, and it's catching a lot more of the pieces of perlite that I have from the previous soil mix that has been part of my bedding. So that'll just go into the grow out bin and add more aeration. But I'm looking in this screen here, and I know it's hard to see. I'm blocking the lighting, but let me just count, just at first glance, how many cocoons I see in this one sifter here. So I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 7 just that my eyes are seeing right off the top. 8. So these are all 9. So yeah, so these are all cocoons I was missing before with my 1/8 sifter. And I maybe would have found like 4 out of this 9 out of this round, and the rest would have ended up in my castings that if I didn't let sit long enough with my little bait traps and everything, they would have never made it back into my system. They would have hatched in somebody's plant somewhere. So I'm just going to keep doing this Let's see how many this one ends up with. Okay, got most of the small stuff out. So in this one, I see, and this all depends on like the area that I pulled from. Sometimes there will be a spot where like obviously the worms were very busy and they laid a lot of cocoons in that one spot. In other spots I won't find much at all. But this one, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, so we must be onto an average here. I'll do a couple more rounds of this to give you the idea. I don't want to take up all of your time with my sifting here, but let me know if y'all would like to sit and watch me sift for hours, because I know I can do this for hours, and I will record a long video if that's what you're interested in. But I really want to get the point across for what I'm doing here. So let me do one more, and then I'll kind of show you what my next steps are, and we'll close out the video from there. So we'll do one more round. Let's see if we can get more than 9 cocoons in this batch. I have my very first vending event coming up this weekend. It's called the St. Louis Seeding Frenzy, and it is a huge seed swap. And they've been really organizing for several months now, and I think that there's going to be so many people, very excited gardeners that are getting ready for their gardens, and everyone's going to be very excited about all the seeds and what they plan to grow this spring, which is like my favorite kind of energy to feed on. I love it. I love talking to people about varieties, what I've grown, what has worked well, have you tried this? And I'm anticipating that a lot of those people are going to be excited for worm castings and maybe even starting a worm bin. We'll see. I'm not sure what to expect on that end yet, but I'm excited to find out. And so this is part of me getting ready for that event. So very exciting. Okay, so this one we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. All right, so it looks like we're averaging like 8 or 9 cocoons per cup sifted, so that's interesting. So let me show you what my next steps are going to be, just for those who are curious about, how the sausage is made. We'll go with that. Or, other worm farmers who are interested in this part of the process too. So what I have is, this is my little packaging that I have currently for my 1 quart size worm castings. And it's got a little label on here that has instructions for what to do with your worm castings, different ways to use them for your garden and your houseplants. Nice little thank you sticker. And it's got a window so they can see the worm castings coming through here. And what I do is I'll be doing several of these. This was a smart move on my part. I have a wide mouth funnel, which is very helpful in getting these actually into these little bag things. So I hold this. I usually have a tray set up, so I'll line up several of these at one time, but I just want to show you. And then I do 1 quart, which is 4 cups. And what I do, I want to make sure that I'm not shorting anybody, so I always do at least one that's like super overflowing. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, a couple that are nice and overflowing there. Tap this all in, boom, boom, and then I just fold this over and fold it over one more time. It's basically like a little coffee, if you get coffee grounds, it's like a little coffee bag. And fold these little bendy things. And there we have it, my cute little package of worm castings for the next excited gardener. Or plant parent. Some people just like plants at home, which is great. So I'll be doing several of these. And then the last step I'll do after I finish this process is I will take this bin, which is full of our slightly bigger pieces of material that can break down a little more. Although, I mean, these are pretty much mostly just worm castings. They're just bigger pieces. So you could totally use this in your garden as well. But we're going to let them have a nice run through. And all of these cocoons that we've caught, this is all going to go over on the other side of this curtain. I'm just trying to make this not look such like a dungeony basement for these videos. But on the other side of the curtain, I have some big grow out bins. And that's where I'm putting all of my cocoons and my bigger pieces. So when these little babies hatch, they have some food ready for them. They have a little heat mat to help keep the temperature a little warmer down here or in my basement. And when they hatch, they will start doing their thing and maturing and breaking down this material even further. And then at a later date, I'll sift all this out and use these worm castings. So that's the overview, the 1/12 screen. I approve this message. I do want one by TurboSift. I'm going to tag them in this and see if they can get us hooked up here. Again, not sponsored. I just really love my TurboSift. And if you're doing something on a small home scale like this, you should definitely check out Worm Gear. They're awesome. And, of course, like this video, subscribe, tell your friends. I'm working to build up my following and would love to be reaching more people about the joy and beauty of vermicomposting. Until next time, row with Rose Wigglers.